Welcome back to Paranormally Correct. I'm your spooky host, Sarah, and today I have a very special video for you. This is actually the third attempt to make this video. I made this video way back when I first started my YouTube channel in 2016. I think it was the fourth video that I ever uploaded, which means that it was a cringy disaster. It was really bad, but the story is really an amazing paranormal experience and it deserves to be shared. It deserves a better video. So that's what I'm going to try to do today, is redo this story. One thing I want to tell you about this story before we get started, I have a lot of evidence from the investigation that I'm going to share with you in this video. So EVPs and even some video footage of some very spooky things. Alright guys, here we go. This is the story of my very first paranormal investigation. This was many years ago, way back at the time before ghost hunting and all the paranormal reality shows and things like that hadn't really reached the height of fame that they made it to eventually. But it was something that I was always interested in, and I had a friend who was, also interested in it. So kind of for shiggles one time, we decided that we would get online and look up a paranormal team in our area and see if we could join their team. We found a team online. We put in the little application on their apply to be a ghost hunter, apply to join the team page, and they actually got back to us. So we ended up meeting with these people and we all got along well. We all seemed like, a good fit for each other. It seemed like we would actually be a good addition to the team, even though the whole thing kind of started off as a little bit of a joke. We didn't really think it would go anywhere. But we liked these people and they seemed to like us, so they let us join the team. It wasn't long after we joined that a really interesting investigation opportunity came up. This woman from Beckley, West Virginia emailed one of the founders of the team, Pam, and she sent a picture, and she also told Pam what was going on, what type of activity they had in the house. The picture was really interesting. It was a picture of her son, and I believe it was on his back, if I remember correctly. He and a friend had been playing upstairs, and he got attacked by some unseen force in the master bedroom closet. It was a walk-in closet, so they shot their Nerf gun and the dart went into the closet. The boy went in after it, and when he did, something grabbed him from, behind onto his back. So the welt on his back kind of looked like a sunburn, a bruise, and a scrape all at the same time. It was really weird. So the picture was definitely enough to get our attention, and we decided to go ahead and take the case. Since the investigation was going to be in Beckley, West Virginia, we were going to have to make a day of it because it was quite a trip from Eastern Kentucky to Beckley. I want to say probably somewhere in the ballpark of 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe a little more. So it was, a pretty good drive. The day of the investigation comes and we're all headed in that direction. Me and my friend Brandon, I think we got there, I don't know, a little while after the rest of the team. They had already went. I think they may have actually been a little closer than us, which is probably why they beat us there. And once we got there, the homeowner gave us all a tour of the house. The house was really old, really super old, and I think it was built out of stone or something. And there's a theory that some types of stone can kind of facilitate paranormal activity. I don't know if I believe in that, but it's kind of a common belief in the paranormal community. So this woman, Kristen, shows us around the house. She, takes us room by room and like all of us together, and she tells us what's happened in what part of the house. So, we go in the kitchen and she says, oh, this and that happened here in front of the stove. Things flew off of the counter. Things have flown off the wall. We go, just through pretty much every single room, and she kind of tells us these stories so that we sort of know what we're doing when we start the investigation. The house seemed pretty normal to me. It just seemed like a really old house, which I guess in itself is sometimes a creepy thing. But I didn't really think that it was too spooky or anything like that. She also told us a really, really strange story. And still to this day, when I think about it, I'm not really sure how to take this, but she said that the house, I guess at around the turn of the century, was allegedly, or maybe urban legendly, owned by a sadistic doctor. And this doctor apparently did some really awful things in this house, and apparently he was also a kidnapper. And he, I don't want to go too into detail because you know how YouTube is about this stuff, but he had committed some terrible acts, and children were involved. There were rumors of weird experiments. You know, I probably can't say some of the other stuff. Pretty bad things, probably about as bad as you can imagine. So physically, this house was kind of like a mini Sarah Winchester house, and possibly just because it was an older house. There were, for example, doors that would open up to nothing. There was this one particular place where there was a staircase, but they had closed in the wall, so the stairs only went so far, and then they stopped against the wall. So it was really strange. Mini Sarah Winchester house for sure. After she gave us the tour, her and the rest of the family packed up their stuff and they took off for the night and went to a hotel so that we could just kind of have free reign over, you know, the investigation. Lights off at about 10, so we kind of started the investigation probably 10:30, something like that. It's usually how it went. All the equipment was set up, the cameras, the EVP recorders, which are basically just audio recorders. It's not a special device. But we had that house rigged with equipment. After that, we kind of broke off into pairs because there were quite a few of us, actually. So I got paired off at the beginning of the night with the other founder of the team, which was Pam's husband, Pat. So we're all paired off, and me and Pat go upstairs to the master bedroom, the most haunted room in the house, to start an EVP session. We're in the room, we're doing the EVP session. This is the first time, except for maybe on Ghost Hunters, that I've ever seen anybody do an EVP session. And definitely the first time I had seen one in person. So we sat there and we sat there, and probably 30 minutes passed and nothing was happening. There weren't any hits on the K2 meter or anything like that. We kind of started just chit-chatting, me and Pat, and he kind of was giving me like a crash course on ghost hunting at that point. We're just having a pleasant conversation, and all of a sudden the walkie-talkie goes nuts. I started to say something else. The walkie-talkie went absolutely nuts. So if you're wondering, why do we have walkie-talkies? Well, we usually use them in large locations, like primarily commercial locations, because if we split up, obviously, you don't want to run through the halls of like Benham Schoolhouse Inn or something like that, screaming like, hey, come here, I caught something, hey everybody. So it just makes sense to use a walkie-talkie. The sound that was coming from this walkie-talkie was awful. Well, let me just tell you, it was like screeching, it was like static, just all kinds of interference, just out of nowhere. Here we are in the dark, and my first thought is, all right, awesome, this is it, it's gonna start, it's gonna be crazy in here because this is probably paranormal. He's like, okay, stay right here for just a second, I'm gonna run downstairs and check and see what's going on. He leaves me in the most haunted room of the house alone in total darkness, except for, you know, the glow of the viewfinder on the night vision camera. So I'm just sitting here in pitch black darkness alone. He comes back a few minutes later and he's like, okay, come downstairs, we're gonna have a group meeting. When I get downstairs, everybody else is down there already. It turns out what happened with the walkie-talkie happened to everybody's walkie-talkie. The weird part is the team that was downstairs, which my friend Brandon was actually on this particular mini team, witnessed some sort of blast of light come out of like a pantry door. I don't know because I didn't look in there. It was either a pantry or the door to the cellar. I'm not 100% sure because I didn't look. But essentially there was no reason whatsoever for there to be light coming from this door. Regardless of whether it was a pantry or not, there was no reason. There wasn't even a light bulb in there. And as soon as it happened, all the walkie-talkies just started squawking and squealing and making crazy noises. We regrouped, we broke off into different groups, and we switched it up, went to different rooms. This time me and my friend Brandon actually went up to the 12-year-old boy's room, which was right down the hall from the master bedroom. We did an EVP session, and we didn't think we got anything. However, we actually caught quite a few things. This first clip I'm going to show you, I'm going to put text on the screen so you'll kind of know what myself and several other paranormal investigators have kind of decided that this EVP is saying. So let's check it out real quick. Oddly enough, we caught a second EVP in that room, so let's check that one out as well. This last piece of evidence I think is really interesting, and I think it's definitely paranormal. And I do have to note that there was no one sitting to the left of me. There were only 2 people in that room that night, myself and Brandon, and he was on the right side of the camera. So check this one out. So while we're sitting there, everything's really quiet and calm, we hear what sounded like a herd of buffalo come out of the master bedroom. We heard running, we heard screaming. We walked out into the hallway to see what was going on. When we get out there, Farrah, Roberta, and Justin, who had been doing an EVP session in the master bedroom, were in the hallway, and Farrah was freaking out. She kept screaming, "It wants to kill me, it wants to kill me," and we're just like, what? What wants to kill her? What is she talking about? We're trying to figure out what's going on. Everybody's trying to tell us at once what was happening, and it turns out that during the EVP session, they kind of did a line of questioning that led up to something a little bit disconcerting. Farrah asked the spirit, or whatever was there, if it was the spirit that attacked the little boy, and they got a clear yes on the K2 meter. Then she asked, "Are you a bad spirit?" and they got another clear yes. And then she asked, "Are you going to hurt anybody else?" and again they got a clear yes. So for some reason her next question was, "Are you going to hurt me?" and again they got a clear yes. We have another little mini team meeting. We end up taking a short break, and then we kind of regroup, but we all go up to the master bedroom this time. So we're all in this room, pitch black dark except for the glow off of the cameras, the viewfinders on the infrared cameras. We're sitting there, it's totally silent. My stomach started growling. So maybe you know from watching my channel, or maybe you know just because maybe you are a ghost hunter. When you're recording audio on a ghost investigation or ghost hunt, you definitely don't want to contaminate your audio. So if something happens that you know the recorder is going to pick up and going to be very confusing later on, you usually want to tag it. Every time that my stomach would growl in front of all of these people who I had only met once, this is my second time meeting them, I would have to stop and be like, "Audio, sorry, that was my stomach growling." If you've watched this channel enough, you probably also know that there is a theory surrounding my stomach, and it is that I have paranormal radar. This became like a big thing with my ghost hunting team because every single time that we would go on an investigation, right before the activity would pick up, I would have the worst stomach growls on the face of the earth. So I was really embarrassed, really super embarrassed. I don't know what it is about stomach growls. It's embarrassing, I think. I was like, "Guys, I'm going to go outside for a little bit." And I excused myself and I left the room. I went out onto the front porch just to get some fresh air. And I'm standing there for probably a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden, here comes like everybody except for Pat running out onto the porch. Farrah in particular ran straight off the porch and into the yard, and the yard was pitch black dark, so we could hear her but we couldn't see her, and I could hear her crying and throwing up and, you know, just kind of having a nuclear meltdown pretty much. I guess it got so intense and the questioning kind of went in the same direction again, and it really upset her really bad. After everything calmed down, they again all go back up to the master bedroom. I, however, decided to go sit at the table in the dining room / kitchen. Mentally, I think I had checked out of the investigation, so I just wanted to go be by myself for a little bit. After everybody got up into the bedroom, I'm sitting at the table, being a negative Nancy, not really participating in my very first ghost hunt. So it seemed like I wasn't sitting there for very long. And they weren't in the bedroom for very long before everybody comes stampeding out again, and I just thought, really? Seriously? So I get up and I follow everybody out onto the porch again, And I'm asking, like, what's going on? What's going on? Brandon comes downstairs, comes out onto the porch, and grabs me and is like, you've got to come see this. At this point, we are all back upstairs in the master bedroom. Once again, Brandon is telling me what happened. So apparently, while I was not in the room, Brandon, Justin, they were both sitting on the bed in the master bedroom. Brandon said that he kept feeling something shake the bed. Every time they would ask an EVP session question, they would get an answer and the bed would shake. This went on for quite a while. He thought that maybe it was Justin. And so he asked Justin, and Justin said, no, I thought it was you. So they asked Pam, who's in the floor sitting against the bed, and she says, I thought it was you guys shaking the bed. Another thing that's interesting about this that we didn't find out till later is that the woman who owned the house, her and her husband experienced this exact same phenomenon pretty frequently. At this point, I'm kind of starting to get a little into it because I know Brandon wouldn't make anything up and I trust his judgment on this type of stuff. So surely something was happening. So we start doing questions and we're kind of going around the room, taking turns, and we're kind of going through like every possible thing that we can think of to ask.
Why do you want to hurt me? Why do you want to hurt me?
I felt dizzy. I felt lightheaded. I even started feeling like I was sinking. I mean, I had this overwhelming sense of sinking, even though I was just sitting on the bed beside of Brandon and Justin. At one point, I was absolutely certain that I was going to black out. It kind of got to a point where I thought, I have to get out of this room. It was quiet in the room. I didn't want to interrupt the EVP session. I was going to look over to my friend Brandon, tap him quietly on the shoulder, and be like, I'm going out, without actually saying anything so I didn't, you know, contaminate the audio. From the minute I turned my head to look at him, what I saw was this long, skeletal, ghostly white face with big, dark, hollow spots where the eyes were supposed to be. It was just staring at me like it was staring into my soul. This is explainable, and I'm just looking at the floor. I can see this face right next to my face. I have no idea what's sitting next to me, but I know it's not him. Brandon says, hey, are you crying? And I was like, no, I'm not crying. And I think probably at that point, you know, everybody heard us because we're all in a room together, confined within kind of a tight space. I was like, I gotta go. So I jump up and I run out the door. When I run out the door, slam the door behind me, that hoop earring hit the floor and rolled across the hallway floor. So let me backtrack for just a quick second and tell you guys a little backstory. Before we went on the investigation, I broke a cardinal rule. I wore something reflective, which was my hoop earrings, but I didn't leave home without them at the time. Before we left, I was trying to get this particular pair of hoop earrings on and they were sprained. Bent the earrings back into place. I pushed them together by hand. The way that I had to latch these things, they were not coming off. That hoop, when I picked it up, was still latched together. When I got downstairs, I couldn't get the thing to come apart. So I, at some point, had to just go ahead and take the other one out as well because I didn't want to wear just one earring. Days after the investigation, when we were talking about it, Brandon told me, he's like, you know, he's like, something kind of happened to me too, because he had an eyebrow ring, and he said that when the bed was shaking at that one part in the night, he felt something tickling his face, and he, you know, kept wiping, maybe thinking like it's a bug or something. And after a couple of minutes, his eyebrow ring came out and hit his shirt. Something would have actually had to twist the top loose and lift the top in order for the ring to come out and fall. Everybody ended up taking another break. This was toward the end of the night. We were almost ready to shut down for the night, pack up and leave because it was really super late. We decided to do one more EVP session at the table downstairs in the kitchen. Usually when you do EVP sessions, if you do catch something, you don't hear it in real time. There are exceptions to this, but generally speaking, that's how it goes. We started hearing what sounded like someone dragging a heavy wooden chair around in the upstairs. It sounded like a bull in a china shop. Whatever this was upstairs, and it was going ham.
Are you an older man?
We never figured out that night why exactly that sound was happening, but of course we assumed it was most likely paranormal. Alright guys, that's it for this video. That's my very first ghost hunt. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click subscribe and click the thumbs up button. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, don't get eaten by a dog man and don't get abducted by aliens, and I'll see you all very, very soon.